Good afternoon to all my Master Duel fans. Happy Sunday to everyone. And as of what's going on in Master Duels, working my way up in progress for some ranked duels, of course. Just reached gold tier, and the deck I decided to do for this ranked duels event would be Charmers. So first things first, as you noticed, the extra deck's incomplete. Going to look for Celine and access code. So until then, I'm sticking with this extra deck route. That's going to be for phase 2. Now, phase 1, which I already did, was to collect the whole entire Charmer stuff. And then sooner rather than later for phase 3 will be the Magista stuff. So without further ado, let's just jump into this deck like no tomorrow. So first things first, 2 Ash, literally the only tuner and hand trap I play, and nothing but the only tuner and hand trap that I play. And then two each of the basic attributes, Alsa, Area, Hita, and Wind. And then the one-ofs, that will be Dark and Lina. In this control build of Charmers, you rather see any of the 10 so that you can start your plays going, especially the fact that if you ever see the animals in hand without any disruption, you should be in a pretty good position. And speaking of the animals, one Nefarious Archfiend in our fire, 2 Gigabyte, 2 Ranryu. Shouldn't need to explain about the animals, of course. But for the sake of the purpose of the Charmer videos, we'll just get right to it about the animals. So, Nefarious, sir. Once per turn during your opponent's end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, he lets you target a face-up monster you control, destroy it, and it gets special summon. So this card, in conjunction with any of the animals, fire, water, and wind, along with Unpossessed, which we will get into, these cards will help you swarm the entire field with the biggest advantage you got. And then the Inari Fire. This is where once per turn during your next standby phase, after this face a card on the field was destroyed by a card effect. So basically, Nefarious, for example, this ends up coming back special summon from the graveyard on my next standby phase. And then Gigabyte and Renryu. Gigabyte, that is your graph of the 4 animals accept itself, and Ranryu, that is your seer of the 4 animals accept itself. And then the destruction effects of Gigabyte and Ranryu, not once. And to save all of that time, one animal names at a time, no other duplicates, and as long as you control a spellcaster, special summon it from the hand, you get to do this multiple times as long as you do not control a duplicate animal. And then the 4 Awakening Possessed monsters. Nefarious, sir, Greater, Gigabyte, and Rasenryu. Technically, these are the 4 big bricks that you do not want to draw. At the same time, it's where if you have discard fodder, then you should be in a pretty good position to get the clawed cards out of your hand and trade them off for some major pluses. And then for the abilities of the bigger animals, saving the time, spellcaster, and a face at level 4 or lower, whatever attributes based off from the bigger animals attributes. So for the earth, does not target reborn, a level 4 in your graveyard, effects are negated. It's really, really strong. Greater NR Fire can be a game stealer if able to do this right. So spellcaster NA level 4 lower fire burns your opponent based off from the monster's original attack. And random fun fact, by the way, even if your opponent somehow controls a monster that's unaffected by everything else, it doesn't actually affect the monster. It applies to the player, which makes it 10 times even more broken if played the card correctly against those types of decks. And then Gigabyte, send, not discard, but send one, and then each player draws one. The sending is really, really strong because any card or effect that deals with discarding, dangers, dark worlds, fables, they don't trigger. And then Rasen Ryu, non-target, non-destroying, compulsing a card is really, really strong. And to save up that extra time for the secondary effects, if they get sent from field to graveyard, this lets you search for whatever spiritual attribute, art, or possessed spell trap from deck to hand. And then the spells that I play in this deck are Raigeki Reborn, 3 Lightning Storm, the fact that it's a go second build, 1 Grand Spirit Art. In this particular build, I only needed 1. And when it comes to testing with this card, it hardly ever comes up, but I'm still keeping this in the deck just so that I wanted to make the deck more consistent enough and start out the combos. And then 2 Awakenings. The reason why 2 in this specifically, because it's a control build. And the idea is that the more attributes you have, the bigger the attack, the bigger the chance you'll finish off your opponent a lot less quicker in like 2, 3, or even 4 turns tops, if I'm able to set this up properly. And then Witchcrafter's Scroll. Now, for those who might be wondering, why are you playing this in Charmers? Because according to Witchcrafter's Scroll, it says once per turn, when your spellcaster monster, keyword spellcaster monster. So that means your FPs and your Charmerlinks, same goes for Downer. Destroys a monster by battle, you can draw 1 card. Simple as it is. And then for the first time ever in Charmer Builds history, I'm playing 3 Spirit Charmers. Sure that Ash Blossom is a card, it's just you have to know when the right moment that they will able to bait out the Ash with the likes of Awakening Possessed in terms of summoning an FP or basically Spellcaster 1850 just to draw a card. And if they somehow bait it out with the Ash, now's the time for you to get the Spirit Charmers going. And then the traps, Breakthrough Skill, 3 Possessed Partnerships, and 2 Unpossessed. Again, it's a control build. I play 2 Unpossessed because sometimes when it comes to opponents' monsters that are a lot bigger than the FPs, by setting up the Holy Trinity field of the Possessed spell traps, you should be able to clear out bigger boss monsters better than ever. And then as for extra deck, Gungnir. So if you're wondering why Gungnir of all things, Ash Blossom being the tuner, and Area and Gigabyte are the non-tuner waters. And I only use Gungnir only for the sake of him being a beat stick of 25. The destruction doesn't necessarily need to come up because in today's game, cards and or effects does something when it comes to destruction in general. So I often use Gungnir only for the sake of him being the beat stick. And then Lightning Chidori, that would be FP Win and Ranryu for the Chidori play. Downward Magician, all of your level 4 FPs are spellcasters, hence why Downer is a thing. And then duplicates of Charmerlings, shouldn't need to say anything. Hita, Win, Asa, Area, and finally 2 Linus. So once again, extra deck is incompleted. Looking forward to grab Celine and Axis Code in the near future. And once again, working my way up to get another version of the deck 10 times better than ever. Other than that, this is James Polk signing out. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Catch everyone next time on Master Duels.